Welcome, folks. This is Clistoria413, and this channel kind of started reviewing movies and books, and I decided let's go back to reviewing books, or at least talking about them. So I'm going to talk about a few books. Well, this is going to be the first installment of me talking about a few books, which are kind of niche books, books you might not have heard of, or books you have heard of and wondered what's the big deal. This one is Lightning in the Night, novel written in 1940. First published actually in 13 installments in a magazine called Liberty. Then it was collected and republished in 1979. The idea is Fred Allhoff, I think I'm pronouncing it right, was worried about the fact that World War II had broken out and the United States wasn't doing anything about it. This is 1940, remember. He's watching the Germans fighting in Europe, and he's watching the Japanese invading China, and probably not doing a very good job at it at that point. But he's worried that if the United States doesn't get involved because of the isolationist movement, that they're going to be, well, isolated. It's kind of in the term. So he wrote this what if about what happens if the United States did stay out of it and Germany won. And it's very interesting. The plot, like I said, is, what happens if Germany won and decides to come after the United States. The amazing thing about this is why he got a lot of it kind of, it's a what if. He's doing a fictional story. A lot of stuff in here doesn't happen. But when you throw enough spaghetti at the wall, some of it sticks. So there's a few items in this story. I'm not going to say anything, but they actually did happen or kind of overlapped with events in World War II. One of the things of this book that I find amazing, actually, is the artwork. Let me expand it a little there. The artwork in here reminded me a lot of, in some cases, Japanese manga. Or is it manga? But the Germans do use, as you can tell by the gas mask, they use gas. And those are American GIs, and those helmets are just horrible. I'm not sure why they have that. But the artwork is, like I said, somewhat fascinating. That's New York being attacked. The Germans did have a idea of making of an American bomber who would reach New York, but they never designed it. I think the person who was the designer got, they put the resources in other things. They had one guy who invented a personal computer, and they're like, nah, we're winning the war. We don't need that. But the artwork is that's Baltimore being attacked by the Nazis. I hope YouTube doesn't cut me out for that. But this is one of those, like I said, a niche book that just, if I was you, I would try to get it. Now, as for the reception, well, the idea that this book swung Americans away from a decade of pacifism, if I'm reading a quote, is kind of unintentional. It wasn't a very good plot, flat characters, kind of tiresome. There was also a romantic subplot, which I don't know why they'd have that. But the idea that there were, this would swing Americans away from decades of pacifism is kind of funny, because in history they're always telling you we're isolationists. We've always been isolationists. No, we haven't. We displaced hundreds of Native American tribes. We invaded Mexico. We invaded Canada twice. Of course, the first one was American Revolution. We're fighting British, troops. But the second time, the Warhawks were like, let's take Canada too. The War of 1812. We tell we're isolationists to the Philippines. We liberated from Spain, and then we decided to keep them. And they had to start a whole war to kick us out. Though most Americans died from the flu, if I remember right. We were even in China during the Boxer Rebellion. Don't tell me we're isolationists. The Spanish War, the war with Spain. How do you think we got the Philippines? Don't tell me that crap. I've had history teachers in high school telling me one thing, and then in college they're like, yeah, don't. The high school, no, half the stuff you learn in high school, no. You're going to have to unlearn it. There were books after I graduated college that had been printed while I was in high school that conflicted with everything I learned in high school. The information is out there, but the high school and the middle school had decided, we're going to deal with the old text. I'm sorry, I've just gone off base. But the thing is, like I said, the reception, this is mixed. but it's a fascinating book. Like I said, most of it's like, yeah, no, this is not how it would work. But other parts of it are like, oh, did he predict that? Wow. That's cool. I forgot. I did a review on this. I forgot the rating, but if you could find it, I would suggest trying to. I mean, it's not in print anymore. Duh. I mean, it was printed it was put together again in 1979, so you might be able to find something about it. This is obviously stuff that I got at a used store, and it was like I think a school library edition or something. But if you can find it, go for it. Especially if you're interested in what ifs, World War II, and real history. I mean, this book was printed to tell the Americans, "Hey, wake up! If you want to be isolationists, yeah, you're going to be isolated." That's the big problem with that. So, yeah, guys, I'm getting back into books again. I have a few other books I like to talk about that, like I said, you might not know of, or you know of, but you're like, what's the big deal about it? So this is one you probably didn't know about. Like I said, also, I really do like that one. This one right here. I see those guys in the masks and the things. I'm like, oh my god, is this a Japanese anime? Also, the planes look like they're broken. I'm not sure how much the artist who did this um, actually understood how the artwork worked. Yeah. So thank you for listening. I hope I didn't bore you too much. And yes, I'm getting back in the books. Bye bye.